Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. My name is Adrian, and in this video I'm going to set up and review the Kelty Discovery 4 tent. All right, let's get into it. £10.1, and that includes everything that came with the tent. "24 inches, 7 inches, 7 inches. All right, so the tent comes with this nice case, has this carrying strap here. Open up. Instructions. Okay, tent poles, tent stakes. We've got this little mesh thing to hang on the inside, rain fly, and the tent body. I'm 6'2", I'm almost 6'2", and the top of the tent is basically, it's above my shoulder height. So it's a pretty good sized tent. Let's walk around and take a look at some of the features now. So here's the tent set up. We have this big D-shaped door here. Has dual zipper pulls on the bottom. There are 2 door retainers. There are 3 clips on each side of the pole. Each corner has these big pockets here for the tent pole to drop down into. And then there's a clip here to clip in the rain fly, and a nylon web section here to stake the tent into the ground. This whole section is mesh, so the entire upper is mesh. And then there's these 2 sections here, which are solid. I'm gonna get a measurement on that, see how tall that is. So from the ground to the top part of that, it's exactly 36 inches. All right, I'll finish the walk around. This is a pretty big tent. All right, let me show you the inside of the tent now. So in every corner of the tent, you have these pockets here. And these are mesh on one side, solid on the other. A lot of mesh, the entire ceiling and a good portion of the sides are mesh. But also, there's a good portion of the sides that are not mesh as well, 36 inches. Like we measured on the outside. And then on the top, there are these loops, these nylon loops here. There's 4 of those, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there's 1 in the center, which I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera. Here's the other side. There's the other little pockets. And then there's this pocket here, which I'm not entirely sure what this is for, but I think it's to stuff the door into. So you've got these door retainers here, 2 of them, so you can roll the door up and tighten it to the outside. But I think this pocket is to stuff the door into. That's kind of hard to do with one hand, but I think I can get it. Yeah, there we go. So I think that's how that works. Okay, I get a length measurement here. I've got my tape pushed right into the corner up against the seam. Over on the side, it's pulling right at 96.5 inches. Width measurement, same thing. Got the tape all the way in the corner. And over on this other side, pulling at 81, just above 81 inches. There's no shortage of headroom in here for a tent like this. So in the middle of the tent, it's pulling right at 62 inches from the floor to the top in the center. Smooth door pull, smooth zipper. There's a lot of room in here. I've got plenty of room for my feet. Plenty of room for my head. Not even close to touching the sidewall on this thing. Yeah, this door is huge. So the width of the door from the zipper to the seam is 46 inches, and from the bottom to the top, 48 inches. It's a big door. I like the stuff pocket for the door. All right, let's take a look at the features of the Rainfly. I have that on now. It has a pretty large vestibule to it, and it's got these 2 different sections here that you can stake out and pull the vestibule out. It's got 2 of those, one there and one there. Let's see how much Velcro's on the Rainfly. Let's see, none. Okay, just one here at the very bottom. The rest of it's not Velcroed. Has a single zipper, zipper pull here. Has guy lines that are tied onto this piece of fabric, which is sewn into the fly. There's no section in the middle to tie this out. That would have been a nice feature to put some guy line on here so you could open up the side of the tent a little bit to let some air flow in there. But they do not have that. They do, however, have a section up here that is vented. So there's this piece of plastic that's sewn into this material, and you can see in there that it goes up and it vents to this circle. It goes into the tent. This is a huge tent. It's hard to get this thing in my studio. In fact, I have to move it around in order to get around the tent itself because it's so big. Here's another guy line. No vent in the back. And again, there's no way to pull the back open. Other side. Big tent. There's another vent on the other side here, just like the other. Okay, just like I've done in the last few videos, I'm gonna go get my camping pads, my pad and my girlfriend's pad, and put them in this tent so you can really see how big this tent is on the inside. by showing those two pads in there. And if you watched my other two videos that I've done, I think I've done two other videos where I put camping pads in the tent, 2 or 3. And if you've seen those, this will really give you an idea about how much bigger this one is. So I'm gonna go grab those and throw those in. Okay, so here's the pads in the tent. You can see that I have the pads pressed up against each wall, and then both are pressed up against this wall. And you can see there's plenty of room between the pads and then down at the foot of the pads from the wall. So here's me laying here and on the pad. Let me see if I can show you this. Touch this door. Gotta hold the door open so you can see this. So there's me laying down. Here's an overhead view. The distance between the pads is 15.5 inches. Down here at the base of the pad, at the foot of the pad to the tent wall, I'm not sure if you can see this, it's probably pretty dark, at least it looks dark on the screen here. That's 19.5 inches. One of my complaints so far about the tent on the inside, and there's not many, this is a pretty great tent, but there's quite a bit of fabric, and you can see how far that falls back into the tent. If I push it out, I just let it fall back in. So there's nothing to pull this fabric tight and pull it out from the tent. If there were some kind of guy line that you could put on this, or if there was some kind of crossbar that you could put around here to pull this out, that would be really great. Now, granted, I understand this is basically a budget tent. I think this thing was like $170 at REI, somewhere in that range. So they can't do everything, and they've done good for what they can do, but this costs you a fair amount of volume in the tent and even starts to impede on the footprint itself, because look how far that falls over. I mean, that's pretty far. Let me measure that. So yeah, that's about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches, depending on where you take the measurement and how high up you're considering to be, the vertical point. Right around here is about 3 inches. So out here, it's probably about 5 or 6 inches. That's quite a bit. That's one of the things I don't like about it. However, that's not going to be a huge problem if you're keeping gear in here, because then you can just push your bag into the side of the tent and that'll be fine. I've said it before and I'll say it again, when it comes to camping and hiking and the outdoors and really just life in general, sometimes less is more. And that's kind of the case with this tent. I mean, this thing is huge. This is a massive tent. Again, I'm almost 6'2". I've probably said that a few times already in this video, and I have to extend my arm upward to touch the top of this tent. So there's plenty of room in it. My girlfriend, she's like 5'6", and she can almost stand completely straight up in the very center of this tent. So it's a big tent, there's plenty of floor room, there's plenty of space, and that's an advantage, but it can also be a disadvantage when you're trying to find campsites or when you're trying to set up in tighter areas. We don't anticipate doing that with this tent. This is our car camping tent. For backpacking, we're gonna get different tents. There's no way we would take a tent that's 10 pounds backpacking. So this is not a backpacking tent. This is just for car camping, going into national parks, state parks, BLM land. It's great for that. I like a lot about this tent, but let me talk about what I don't like about it first. So first is that it's pretty tall, and I don't like that because it's gonna catch a lot of wind and it's gonna be noisy trying to sleep. It feels a little unstable to me as well. There are only 2 poles for this tent. They're fiberglass poles, they're not aluminum. And even though they have a thicker diameter to them, the tent just feels unstable. If you watched my last video on the last tent that I reviewed, which was another Kelty tent, that was the Kelty Ashcroft, the last video I did, that tent was crazy stable. I mean, that thing was like steel, it was so stable. This thing, not so much. It's a pretty wobbly tent, so I wonder how this is gonna do under heavy rain or a really heavy wind load. And I don't even want to think about this thing in snow. I don't think it would work. It would probably break the poles. Take a look at this. Now that's not necessarily an uncommon thing for tents, but I wanted to point out that even though this tent is classified as a freestanding tent, and it technically is, you're gonna lose a lot of strength in this tent if you don't have it staked out and have the rainfly guide out. So that's one of my complaints. Another one is the sides of the tent, like I pointed out when I was in there. I think you can still see this. The light's kind of bad, but this really kind of blows in pretty far. There's nothing to support that and hold that out. And that goes for both sides of the tent. So for me, that's a disadvantage. But again, that's not really a deal breaker because you can put some gear there, throw a backpack there or a duffel bag or something, and it'll help hold that out. So those are the one more con that I wasn't too stoked about. I showed this earlier in the video, but I'll just go over it again now. There's no way to guide this section out on the sides or the back to increase airflow. Now they do have this vent up here that helps with that, but there's no other way to do it. There's no way to guide out. There's just those vents, and I could probably rig something up for that, but So all pretty minor things. And again, this is a budget tent. This is an entry-level tent. This is not something that's like super high design spec. So I get it. They have to make choices as what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And overall, I think they did a really good job for what this tent is meant to do, which is to basically be a car camping tent or a family tent or, a couple's tent, something like that. And it's fantastic for that, but only that. So know that if you're going to buy this tent, if that's the purpose you're going to use it for, I think it would be a great tent. You can totally fit 2 people in here, even 3 comfortably. So good family tent, good tent for a small group, or a good tent for just a couple. If you want to go out with you and your partner, great tent for that. What I like about the tent is the size. I like the footprint. I don't like the height, but I do like the footprint. It gives a lot of room on the inside. There's plenty of space to lay out your gear, to put out big sleeping pads, to have, quilts or blankets or sleeping bags in there. Plenty of room inside the tent, which I really like. And the rainfly pulls pretty tight onto the tent. I like that as well. That helps add some rigidity and stability to it. So I think this is the tent that we're going to keep. I think my tent quest for now is over. Maybe not. Again, this isn't the backpacking tent, so I'll be back in the market for a couple of those in the coming months. But right now, this will be a good tent to go do some car camping with. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.